right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's a celebration. Many of you already know why. We are finally dealing with some good, high quality stuff. Finally. After many years and many months of searching and trial and error and many test sessions together, I think we have finally solved our problem. Welcome, everybody. Do please let me know, obviously, if we have any tech issues, any sound issues. I think we're on the right microphone, we're on the right computer, we're in the right energy. Yes. Okay. You guys can expect a lot of these out of me over the next couple of days. If I had to make a prediction, you can expect kind of a miniature flood out of me over the next couple of days because I never realized how restricted I really was by not having good tech. Okay. So a floodgate has been opened in my mind. So don't be surprised, like, if you log on or just happen to roll over and see me live at like 3 a.m. I'm not kidding. Not tonight, but I mean, like, over the next couple of days, if you happen to see me live at 3 a.m., just let it happen and join if you can. I have a lot of catching up to do. But I'll try to save like the important shows, like the People of the Lie and things like that. I'll try to save those for regular time frames so you guys don't miss them. But you can expect some 3 a.m. shows and things like that. Yes, it is the new computer. Thank you so much. Oof. What a journey. What a rough ride. Okay, so welcome, everybody. Welcome to the new era. Yes? I think this computer will take us to 100,000. What do you guys think? I think so. Welcome, everyone. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. So this is what tonight's show is going to be about. By the way, those of you on the mailing list, I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I think I might temporarily suspend the mailing list only because it adds an extra layer of complication that I did to myself. It was voluntary. I voluntarily signed up for it. So it's totally my fault. But let me think through that and see how I can make that more automated so it's not quite as burdensome as I've made it. It's nothing you guys have done. I think it actually is a good idea and works well, but I just know how my brain is. And when I'm ready to go, I need to go. And I don't need to like stall another 30 seconds to send the email. So we'll talk through that. I think there's some automated solutions that I can look into. We'll deal with that another day. But that's why I haven't been letting you guys know, just let it happen. All right. So let's get into the topic for tonight. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I can't tell y'all how happy I am. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm so happy. So happy. So let us get into the topic for this evening. Welcome to everybody in the chat. It is great to have you. So right now in society, there is a narrative being spun, not trying to make this political, honestly, but really spun from, I'll say, your more capitalistic individuals. How about that? That keeps it nice and neutral, right? There's a narrative being spun by people who are a bit more capitalistic, people who tend to value money over life, people who tend to value money over everything, really. And that narrative is that as a result of our little $600 stimulus check, our $1,400 stimulus check, and did they send a $1,200? I can't remember. Or am I making that up in my mind? Did we get 3 or 2? I don't remember. But I know for sure 600. No, it was 600 and 1,200. I don't know, guys. The point is, it was only 2 or 3 little checks, okay? We're not talking 30 checks, 40 checks. We're not talking a check a week. We're not talking 1,200 a week, 600 a week. We're talking 600 one time, the 1,200 one time. And in my mind somewhere, I'm pulling 1,400. I think that's y'all out in California. I think the Californians are going to get a $1,400 check, but I digress. The narrative that's being spun is as a result of those 2 stimulus checks and the unemployment benefits that some people are able to get. people don't want to work anymore because they can make more money working from home. Well, not, excuse me, let me rephrase. They can make more money being at home and sitting at home doing nothing, collecting unemployment, than they can working for us. And that's not fair to us. So stop paying them unemployment so they'll come back to work for us. That is the narrative that's being presented, and that is the narrative that's being spun. And I've been waiting to debunk it ever since I heard it. So, first of all, we know that it's a lie, right? Obviously, it's a lie. But we're going to get into why it's a lie, and we're going to get into some of the realities that they simply refuse to face as employers, as capitalists, and things of that nature. So, those of you who've been through this, none of what I'm going to say is really going to be revolutionary to you. It'll probably be more validating than anything else. But my greatest hope is that somebody who maybe employs people comes across this video and maybe has an aha moment for the first time. Maybe, you never know. Stranger things have happened, okay? So before we get into that, let's take a look at this article. I got this from Instagram from an account called America Meets the Internet. And this is their link in bio. So I will link this for you guys after the show, okay? So it says people are roasting business owners who complain that nobody wants to work while offering low wages, right? So apparently this is a real sign. Obviously, I'd have to do a lot of fact checking, but I mean, that would be a very weird sign to make up. But I think this is a weird sign, and it says, no, excuse me, this is a real sign, and it says, we are short staffed. Please be patient with the staff that did show up. No one wants to work anymore. And then somebody commented on that or under it, they pay $2.15 an hour plus tips. And he didn't have to say anything else. That one simple sentence really said it all, didn't it? Okay. But the message that's implied in the picture is that people are simply lazy. People just won't take a good job when they've been offered one. And even Biden came out. I remember, I think this was yesterday, he came out and said that, there's going to be some sort of alterations to unemployment. People have to take the jobs that they're offered. And the implication behind that is people are out here turning down 50 and 60 and 70 and $80,000 jobs, $100,000 jobs. The implication is also that these employers are out here hiring like that. And I don't know if that's entirely true. I don't know. We just came off of a pandemic, still kind of in the middle of it, to be honest with you, still kind of sitting right in the middle of it. So individuals and businesses are still recovering from that. You don't just have a major gap in income and then suddenly recover from that. And the fact that people are trying to live in this delusion is a separate show all by itself. Like, we are really trying to pretend like a lot of people didn't experience a major gap. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people did not lose their job during COVID, but it still impacted them in one way or another. For example, say you didn't lose your job. Let's just say your company was like, okay, just work from home, but your kids' daycare closed. Your kids' daycare stopped taking kids. So even though you didn't lose your job, you now are taking care of your kids at home while you work at the same time. COVID touched everybody. COVID shut down people's gyms. So even if you didn't lose your job, maybe you lost your access to fitness temporarily. I mean, you can go take a walk, but you get my point. You see what I mean? Separate show. Let's keep going. So it says, as pandemic safety measures are lifted across the U.S. amid the mass vaccination efforts, businesses that are fully reopening are having a hard time finding the staff to keep their stores running and are beginning to complain that no one wants to work anymore. Oh God, that triggers me so much because it's such a lie. And it's so short-sighted, and it's just so focused, PTE. Some are blaming the increase in unemployment benefits to levels that can actually keep some people afloat, as well as the recent one-time survival payments of $1,400 for eligible individuals provided months ago by the most recent stimulus bill. However, people who have and still are working in low wage retail and service industry jobs have another idea for why workers aren't flooding back to these jobs. The pay is too low and the benefits are non existent. Okay. And I couldn't agree more. Again, this is not something you didn't know, but let's talk about it though. Let's talk a little bit about what's really happening here. There's several things happening. Obviously, if someone makes $250 a week working at your restaurant between your $2.15 an hour and tips, and they make $250 a week doing that, working 40 plus hours sometimes, and they can get more money on unemployment than working for you. That's what we call simple math. That's math. That's mathematics. That's capitalism, baby. That's simple math. And you would be a fool unless you really love what you do. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of people who love their jobs, no matter what it is. You might not like it. It might not be something you could visualize yourself doing, but there are people who love their jobs. I'll give you a perfect example. Let's say there's a retiree, a retired school teacher. He or she retired, they took a few years off, they did a little traveling, and then they got back home and got bored. So they went and took a job at the local diner, right? And they love it. They get to meet all the truckers, they get to meet all the people coming in and out of town. They've met a few celebrities here and there. It makes them enough money, to give them a little extra spending money, but not too much money, because that retirees cannot make over a certain dollar amount or they lose their Social Security benefits. Did you know that? It's either Social Security or retirement. You got to love America, right? It's one or the other. I can't remember. If anyone knows, please let us know in the chat. But basically, they can't just go work a full-time job, because if the government finds out, they'll cut them off of their benefits. So a lot of retirees have to work these little part-time jobs that don't pay much because they cannot tip. They can't go over a certain dollar amount or they lose their money. Gotta love this place. So anyway, my point is, there are people who love it, who would come back. But those are the people who have been offered an environment that is not abusive. It's not financially abusive. It's not physically abusive, mentally. The customers aren't abusive towards them. You see what I mean? The company itself. So those are the people who are going to come back in spite of the unemployment being more money. The people who you'll never see again are the people you mistreated prior to all of this. And as I've said before, many, many times, many of you deserve to go out of business. You deserve it. You were always lucky to have employees come work for you. Always. You were always fortunate in that respect. And a lot of really good leaders, a lot of leaders who go down in history as being good leaders, often say that you are supposed to treat your employees like volunteers. You're supposed to treat every single employee, no matter how much you're paying them, like they're volunteers, because they are. It doesn't matter if you're paying me $100,000 a year. I can choose to stop coming here at any time. Anytime, which makes this a voluntary operation. And you would argue and say, PTE, no, it's a transaction. They hired you for a specific job. You do the job and they pay you. Yeah. And guess what? I can leave whenever I want. And In many states, they can ask me to leave whenever they want for no reason, which they need to get rid of those laws. Did you know in parts of Europe, and it might be all of Europe, like you have to give a 30-day notice to your employer and you have to actually work it? Correct me, my European listeners and my listeners from the UK, but the last time, and this was years ago, but I thought it was such a good idea in both directions. Like, okay, I don't want to work for you anymore, but I recognize that just quitting on you puts you in a bind. And ultimately, that bind can impact the economy, right? Well, vice versa. Hey, I don't want you working for me anymore. And unless you haven't done anything like criminal or dangerous, I'm letting you go. But that's going to be 30 days from now. So if it's May 1st, I'm letting you go on June 1st, or well, May 30th. You get my point. So let me know if that's still correct or if I have that completely wrong, but it's different in Europe. You can't just quit and they can't just fire you either. And that kind of gives both parties time to plan and make things, correct. But anyway, yes, the at will aspect makes all employment voluntary. It doesn't matter how much they pay you. So there's that. Then, let's never forget that many of these places don't pay or don't offer benefits of any kind. No health insurance, no dental, no vision, no life insurance, certainly no 401k. Come on now. They don't offer anything other than the little bit of check that they're giving you. And they wonder why people don't come back. And then on top of all that, you have the nerve to be narcissistic and abusive. So it's almost like the chickens have come home to roost in the most unusual way, yes? Because I think it's beautiful that so many people are finally, for the first time, choosing themselves over these employers who really have only ever cared about keeping their businesses afloat. But if they really cared about keeping their businesses afloat, they would have taken better care of their employees. They would have taken much better care of their employees if they really cared about keeping their businesses afloat, but they didn't. They cared about operating at the bare minimum. I said many videos ago, I said, if your employer pays you minimum wage, what they're basically saying to you is, I am paying you basically what the law requires me to pay you. And if I could, I would pay you less. But the law forces me to pay you at least this much. So I'm going to only because my hands are tied and twisted behind my back. So that tells you right up front how they feel about you. It's a wonder that they have employees at all. I think that's a miracle, really. Let's continue. It says, as Tennessee Democrat Christopher Hale, along with many others, have pointed out, restaurant jobs in his several states are allowed to pay their servers almost nothing as long as their tips technically reach a total of the federal minimum wage, which has stagnated at $7.25 for 12 years. Meanwhile, in areas where the wages are a little higher, they've been completely outpaced by the high cost of living in and around major cities. And those are facts. Like the fact that they can pay somebody $7.25 with a straight face really says a lot about them and their character. It really does. So you remember when they were having the big argument and the big debate about $15 an hour minimum wage? Like I knew it wouldn't go through because they fought against, God, what was it before? Like $6.75 or something like that. I don't remember. But they fought super hard against that. But I think if they went for a $10 federal minimum wage, it would pass. And the main reason I think it would pass is because it's an even number. And people like even numbers, even if you don't think you do. You do. Because there's nothing like bookkeeping when someone worked a solid 8 hours, you know they're getting $80. They work 10 hours, they're getting $100. Of course, taxes and all that fun stuff. Yes, yes, yes. But you get my point though. People like even numbers. And it's an increase. It's not a dramatic increase, but it's an increase nonetheless. And it at least kind of sort of is starting to move the ball forward in terms of matching our current society. Because here's the reality. Like, you'll often see like these restaurants, these little fast food restaurants plugged like in the middle of like a midtown or something. And they don't have like high paid employees working there. They probably have college students. Um, but keep this in mind, guys. For the most part, during the day, teenagers and college students are at school. For the most part, some college students have different schedules that enable them to, you know, flex or whatever. But for the most part, they're at school. So that means that adults are working at these places during the day. Adults. And what do most adults have? Kids. And if most adults don't have kids, they have dependents and dependencies of some kind. So they're not just like random humans who don't need money. We've talked about this. This is a separate stream. Everyone needs money. Everyone does, which is why UBI is such a good idea. But here's why they fight against UBI so hard. Their fear with UBI is exactly what's happening right now. So they're like, dang, they won't come back to work off this little bit of unemployment and this little bit of stimulus. If we give them UBI, they'll never come back. And my response to that is, yeah, you're probably right. But at the same time, I think people naturally like work and want to do things. I really believe that in my heart, you guys. And I believe there's a lot of people who, even if they had a federal UBI instituted, they would receive their UBI, but they would still go look for a job because they just can't sit still like that. They can't stay home. They can't sit around. Y'all see how they just got through acting with quarantine. You would have thought that the world would have rejoiced over being told, please stay home, take a break, take a load off, relax, hang out with your family, hang out with your pets. You would have thought the world would have launched into celebration. They launched into a temper tantrum. So what does that tell you? Once they've gotten all the Disney out of their system, once they've gotten all the, little vacationing out of their system, once they've gone everywhere they want to go, they're going to get bored and they're going to work again. Because that's just what people do. What you have to offer is a place that's not miserable, a place that doesn't suck the soul and suck the life out of people. Because guess what? Just as much as you suck the life out of your employees, you suck the life out of your customers too. And we don't want to be there either. So it's not just your employees that don't want to come to your stores. We don't want to be there either. It's lacking. You're lacking in many ways. For example, when I walk into a massive store of any kind, Walmart, Home Depot, any other giant retailer, and I'm sure this exists, you guys, but what I'm saying is it doesn't exist in a mainstream way. I should be able to go to the app in my phone, plug in the item I'm looking for, and it should be able to tell me with almost GPS coordinates where it is. So I can go find it because I know it's here. I know you have it. Like, I can't even fathom how much money these stores lose because people go into the store looking for something. They can't find an employee, or the employee's busy. The one and only employee you have working there is at the cash register. You're looking, can't find it. You walk out, they have it. They just moved it again. We don't like that. We don't like you changing our store every 6 days. We like some sort of stability with it. So I can kind of develop a rhythm and a pattern. But every time I get my little pattern down, you go moving the body wash to a new aisle. We don't like that. That's how we end up on Amazon. Because at least on Amazon, I know exactly where it is. Okay. I don't have to go wandering around the store, roaming around the store. You don't have a Segway for me. How fun would that be? Can you put my grocery cart on a Segway, please? I think that's what they're called. The little electronic scooters that you stand up. Fun. Anyway, you're lacking. That's why we don't like to be there either. Like, you all specialize in sucking the soul out of things. Mercy. If you could ever learn how to stop doing that, you might see your businesses regenerate. Okay. It says many of these supposedly lazy workers that businesses are complaining about have come forward to explain that these low wages are simply unlivable, and it's not worth it to them to have to work themselves to exhaustion and still not be able to afford rent. If businesses want to attract workers again, they're simply going to have to offer wages that people can live on, as was supposed to be the deal under capitalism, right? Precisely. And here's the other part of this that people don't consider and don't think about. Those who like to often, oh man, I got to debate one of these idiots one day, but the problem is none of them will, I promise you, they wouldn't be able to hang in the debate long enough for me to get my point across. Because the same people who are crying that nobody wants to come work for them and they're super lazy and they just want to sit around on unemployment and not work are the same people who would then belittle those workers for having a fast food working job, for working at Walmart, for working at like a gas station, for working at a fast food restaurant. You know, they would belittle you. And then what do they start saying to you? Oh, well, if you don't want to make minimum wage, well, you need to get an education. You need to get an education. You need to better yourself. Well, have you ever thought about the fact that if they all took your advice and bettered themselves, there would be nobody to work at your little part-time minimum wage jobs, just high schoolers. And then that means during the day, your business could not be open because all your employees are at school. If everyone took your advice, and then as soon as they turn 18, they quit because they're off to better themselves. My question to you is, why can't someone in America start working at a McDonald's at age 16, making $10 an hour, and by the time they're 30, sure, they still work for McDonald's, but they have matriculated through the system because, trust, there's a lot to do and know at McDonald's. There's a lot of different departments. There's a lot of different places you can go, corporate, whole different pathways and avenues. So by age 30, they've moved through all the lower ranks. They've moved through maybe some of the mid ranks. And now perhaps they're either preparing to move up to like the executive, not executive, but like whoever sits right up under executive, or the regional level. Do you see what I mean? Why can't a person start a job at McDonald's at 16 and slowly, with expectation and good work, obviously, move up to where by the time they're 30 and probably married and possibly with a kid, they can actually afford to support them working at McDonald's? What's wrong with that? Where is the shame in that? The shame is in these companies not evolving their employees, not graduating them, not growing them, not training them truly. You know what I mean? Like, truly train them to the point where, like, if the manager can't make it to the store that night, the whole staff can run it because they've all been trained so well. You see what I mean? Let's not. Okay. So there's that. But here's the point I've been trying to get to for like 10 minutes. And I keep working myself up in a different direction. People forget that everybody really, but people in jobs like these often don't have time, you guys. They work them from morning till night often. They get called in often when another coworker calls out. So that could very easily mean a day that starts at 8 a.m. and doesn't end maybe till 8 p.m. or 7 p.m. or 6 p.m. with a 30-minute lunch break and maybe 2 15-minute lunch breaks for grown adults. Okay? So there's that. So when your time is eaten up like that, and your schedule is unpredictable, as they often are in environments like these. When and where do you truly have the time to break away to do something different? Because I believe a lot of what's happening right now is a lot of these workers have probably started taking classes. Some of them have probably gone back to school. Some of them, I bet you a bunch of these employees went back to school. They just went online. They just started school online because they were unemployed. Their business shut down, their restaurant shut down due to COVID. They started receiving their various little benefits here and there, and they thought to themselves, well, you know what? I might as well just go back to school. A lot of them are in school. Some of them have moved. They took the opportunity to move out of that city, out of that area. When would they ever have time to do that? When would they ever have the time and the money to do that? So a lot of people are making major moves right now, which is why they're not coming back to these vortexes, really, because that's really what they are. They're vortexes. They finally broke out of that vortex, that black hole that was pulling them and sucking them in. And they're making major moves and major changes with their lives. And yeah, a lot of these stores might go under. And like I've said a million times, a lot of y'all deserve it, unfortunately. But that's what capitalism is supposed to be, right? Winner take all, right? May the best man win, right? So if you're not the best man, you're not supposed to win, right? I thought that's how this works. All right, it says other workers have expressed that in addition to low wages and zero benefits, working conditions have declined for low wage jobs to the point that they're done putting up with it anymore. Bravo. One former Chipotle manager described having trouble retaining employees because the stress they were put under wasn't worth a measly $10 per hour. When ice storms hit West Virginia in February, he hit his own breaking point. Quote, I contacted the field leader and told him we needed to close early. My staff feels unsafe. It was expected that even if I was there by myself, I would have to keep the store open until close, no matter what. So I closed the store, went home, and never came back. I can't tell you how happy stories like this make me. I love it. I love it when people stand up for themselves and protect themselves. I love it. Because this is what they'll do. Ice storm coming, winter storm coming, power outages everywhere. Hey, the power is out at the store. I think I should lock up and leave. Why don't you stay for one more hour to see if the power comes back on? Yeah, it doesn't look like it. It's a blackout everywhere, and I'm starting to get scared. It looks like people might want to try to like open the doors. Well, they're probably just hungry customers. Just write it out, you know? Just write it out. No, 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 that's true. In the chat, it says, I saw a Taco Bell advertisement saying they pay the store manager $100,000 a year. Is that fake news? I believe I read the same thing, and no, I don't think it is fake news. Because they're trying something different. They're trying treating people like humans to see if it works. So to see if maybe treating people like human beings has like a positive outcome, like positive results. It says Drown reports that 5 more employees at that Chipotle store quit soon after. Quit soon after. And that as of the date of his interview, they are operating with online orders only and limited hours because they still can't keep up. Yeah, I bet you can't. I bet you can't. And what this also tells you guys is that they designed their business models around your dependency, meaning they were always kind of hoping that you would be so desperate for a check, so desperate for money, that you would take the job out of sheer and pure desperation. And I think we've all taken at least one job out of desperation before. But my hope for you is that as you grow in your career and as you get older, that you're doing that less and less, that you're taking fewer and fewer jobs out of desperation, and that you're actually able to walk away from jobs if they don't meet your needs, that you learn how to ask the right questions and suss out these psychopaths on the front end so you don't waste a lot of time. You know what I mean? That is my hope for you, that you can build yourself up to the point where all jobs you take are voluntary. It's like, oh, you're looking for an employee? What you guys got going on? Oh, sure, that sounds fun. Oh, sure, that sounds fun. Yeah, sure. You go, start working, and if it's good, you stay. It's pretty simple. If it's not good, you're like, well, alrighty then, that was fun. You guys are all crazy and I'm out. The loss of the fear is what I'm really looking for. Excuse me. So here's somebody's comment. It says, they're hiring Chattanooga businesses say they need help, but can't find the employees to work for them. Rib and Loin says they had to close their in-house service today because not enough people showed up to work. Businesses say the hiring problem has gotten worse since COVID. Yeah, because we also forget, guys, that there's like a deadly virus going around. So on top of you all not paying anything, not offering benefits, working people into the ground, there's also a deadly virus going around. And a lot of these businesses don't really, like, they put on a good COVID front, but they give it up real easy. You know what I mean? And God, they're in such a weird place right now because, like, a lot of businesses still require masks, although they are starting to ease up on that a bit. They still require masks, but a lot of people are vaccinated. So if you're vaccinated and your little grace period has passed, well, to you and in your mind, you can walk around without a mask now. Like, isn't that the whole point? Even though I'm not sure what the current state on that is. So do please consult with the CDC website for the current and most accurate advising on that. I don't know. I don't know if you're still supposed to wear one, if you're good to go. I don't know. I think if you're vaccinated, you can hang out with other vaccinated people and be okay. I think that's the current state. But anyway, um, you know, that's neither here nor there to a lot of people. There's still a virus going around and has been, you understand? This person wrote, crazy idea, just spitballing here. What if they guaranteed a 40-hour work week and, again, crazy off the wall idea, paid people enough money to afford food and rent? They've tried everything else, so why not do a Hail Mary pass? I mean, that idea is just the craziest thing I've ever heard, but I mean, they've never really tried it before. You know what I think they should do, guys? Now, they wouldn't like this. You want to see the rent and housing prices come down overnight? They should pass a federal law that requires employers to pay you based on either, well, really, in my mind, it's based on where you live. So where you live currently, if they offer you the job, part of your employment package is you have to submit your address, obviously. And whatever the average rent or mortgage or both is for your zip code, they have to pay you that plus like whatever else on top. Does that make sense? I wish I could do some quick math on the fly, but But basically, so like, here, I'll just throw this out there. If you live in an area where the average rent is $1,500 a month, well, then that job has to pay you $1,500 a month minimum, plus like living expenses, if that makes sense. So in other words, if you are already living somewhere, assuming you are either a homeowner or a renter somewhere, and you apply to a new job, they don't pay you based on what they're offering. They have to pay you based on how much the cost of living is in your area. And then if you have to move closer to the office, for work, well, they might want to think twice about where their office is. Is your office in a super expensive area where rent is $3,000 a month? Well, pony up. The employees who live closest or in that zip code, you have to pay them at least $3,000 a month, plus other things on top of that. Now, some will come in and argue and say, well, that will deepen the poverty line or the poverty divide, because if you're already wealthy and you live in a wealthy area, well, you'll be paid to maintain your wealth there. Where if you are in an impoverished area, well, then your employer doesn't have to pay you as much as the person who lives in the wealthy area. And you actually have a very valid argument. However, I think there are ways that we can make it work, basically. Because I thought through that. I'm like, dang, so if you're already in a nice area, you basically just get paid to maintain your nice lifestyle. But if you're in an area you don't really want to be, you're going to be paid to kind of sort of stay in that area. But I think there's a way to where, like, even if you did live in like a not nice area, they're not just paying you your rent. They're paying you your rent plus other money. So hopefully, prayerfully, you would take the extra and then move to a different area and then submit that to your employer. So maybe that would be the caveat. Like, okay, we're going to hire you. We're going to pay you where you live based on where you live right now. But in 1 year, if your address has changed, you can submit that to the company and they then have to pay you based on your new address. It's just a thought. It's something different. We can work out the details a little later, but yeah. Because at minimum, they could guarantee that they're not helping contribute to the homeless crisis. Because there's no reason, in my opinion, there's no reason anyone should have a full-time job and be at risk for homelessness unless they are just like deeply irresponsible. Like they go blow all their money at the casino, or they go blow it all at the liquor store, or they just blow all their money. You know what I mean? But even then, like, the question becomes, who benefits from putting people on the street? Who benefits from that? Even if a person is deeply and remarkably irresponsible, which people are, do you benefit from that deeply and remarkably irresponsible person living in the local park now? Did you show them? Did you teach them a lesson? Oh, we showed them. Now you live on the street. There, that'll teach you. Yep, they live on the street. They pee on the street. They poop on the street. They eat on the street. So who's winning here is my question. Who actually wins? We'll have to talk about that another day. That's a different topic. But, these are the ideas that I need to see coming out of some of our elected officials. Let's see here. What else? This person wrote, very low pay, must work multiple jobs, no health care, no protection from C-19, stressful work with inconsistent hours, and rude, entitled owners. But it's the workers who are wrong, obviously. Right, exactly. It's always us. So it's never anything that they're doing wrong. Never. It's always us. What was that show? Wasn't there a show, or was that Gordon? Was it Gordon Ramsay who used to go around to people's restaurants, crushing their whole idea of themselves and then attempting to rebuild it? Yeah, and it's not just restaurants, guys. It's restaurants. Retailers are having a real tough time keeping employees right now. They've got to change. That's one of the major takeaways from this particular live stream. You guys, you employers who are having trouble getting and keeping employees, you have got to change. Your format does not work. It never has. You just got lucky. Your approach does not work. It never has. You just got lucky. And your luck came in the form of there never being anything that really rocked the boat that much. You know what I mean? An occasional hiccup here and there, a hurricane here and there, a snowstorm here and there, but nothing that ever rocked the boat as much as COVID-19 did. You never planned for it because those types of things have never happened, right? So that means they'll never happen, right? It says, I don't GAF what the federal minimum wage is, pay people properly, and you will retain good workers. No one feels sorry for these idiots. They can't write a business plan, right? Like how some of these restaurants were not on delivery long before Uber Eats and long before DoorDash, I'll never know. How they didn't work out, if nothing else, like a little local plan. Like, okay, we'll only deliver to this neighborhood because they're within a 2-mile radius. And then once you mastered that, okay, now we're going to expand out to a 5-mile radius of delivery. Okay, good. Worked out the kinks there. Okay, now let's go ahead and expand out to a 10-mile radius of delivery. Work out those kinks until eventually that restaurant was able to deliver to the whole city. How these restaurants weren't on delivery long time ago, I'll never know. How the grocery stores didn't beat Instacart and what's the other one? Excuse me. I guess Postmates, but isn't there another grocery delivery? How the grocery stores weren't on top of that long before these people. You should have been on that. Like that was such a duh. Like duh. But they slept. Like, God, we got to get rid of these people. They're getting rid of themselves. They're narcissists really truly are a self-cleansing, self-purging machine. It just takes a while sometimes. And in that wait can be brutal, man. And that wait can often leave a lot of people hurt in the path. But believe me when I tell you, the narcissist is a self-cleaning machine, and that eventually it purges itself. It really, really does. Okay. I loved this. This was funny. And I'll explain the context if you don't understand the context here. But somebody commented, have those restaurants considered learning how to code? So a couple of years ago, when I think it was either the coal miners or it was one of those jobs that's very physically demanding labor wise, that was being outsourced. And people were real upset about it because these particular workers, that's all they had ever done. So one of the insults that I'll just call them the capitalists, one of the insults that the capitalists used to say, well, it didn't start as an insult. It actually started sincere. It ended up as an insult, was learn to code. And you have to understand how ridiculous it is to say I'm just going to use a man in this case because it's mostly men that it affected, to tell a man who's like 58, 60 years old, who's been working in the coal mines or wherever it was with his hands and his mind and his body for 35 years, to suddenly pick up a computer, who, with all due respect, may not know how to send an email. I'm being very honest, and I'm not being condescending at all. I'm telling the truth. You've been working in a coal mine. You haven't been fooling with email and Zoom and smart sheets and all that. You see what I mean? So you're trying to say to a person who's had an extremely manual job his whole life, go sit behind a computer and learn to code. When half of us have grown up with computers and we would struggle learning how to code. I know I would, at least I think I would. And maybe I should stop putting those types of limitations on myself. But when I listen to people talk about code, I'm like, Oh, something is wrong with y'all. But in a good way. I'm glad that you know how to do this because wow, I feel like I would pull my hair out trying to understand what they're talking about. So it became an insult when these people were going to their elected officials saying, please don't do this to us. We don't have anything else. They were saying, well, learn to code. So this person saying to the restaurants who are saying they can't keep staff have these restaurants considering learning how to code. It's like they threw the insult back at them, basically. Yeah, learn to code. Well, looks like you got to shut down your restaurant, but you could always learn to code, you know? It's very insulting and belittling. It says it's almost like people don't want to risk their lives for less than $3 an hour plus tips. Right, exactly. Like they really think they are offering up something so great that people would give their life energy and risk their lives to do it, to keep you and your family healthy and safe and alive. Our entire system is quite cannibalistic, actually, if you think about it. The banks cannibalize the corporations cannibalize the employees and the customers. And then who do the customers cannibalize? Themselves? I don't know. Do the customers then turn around and cannibalize the banks in the form of, overdrafts, badly written checks? I don't know. I have to think that through. I need to do that thought exercise. But my point is, everyone is living off of everyone else. Maybe it's less cannibalism and more leeching. So the business owner is leeching off the employee. The employee is leeching off the business owner. They both need each other to survive. It's quite symbiotic. And without the employee, the business owner dies. And without the business, the employee dies. So when you come to understand that we all ultimately need money, it kind of cancels itself out in a way. It neutralizes itself. I was thinking about this the other day, and I don't think this is a profound thought. I'm pretty sure other people have thought this before and have better words for it. But I was like, money is a middleman. I was like, money really is nothing if you think about it. So for example, if you're selling apples and you're selling 10 apples for $1, which is pretty good, and I want them, well, I just gave you $1 for 10 apples, but what did I really give you? I really didn't give you anything, really, but you gave me apples. But now you're going to take that dollar and you're going to trade that dollar for something different when really you could just trade your apples for whatever it is you want. So let's say I sell oranges. So I come to you as an orange seller and I buy 10 apples from you for $1 and you buy 10 oranges from me for $1. Well, that's just silly. Why don't I just give you 10 oranges and you give me 10 apples? The money is like a weird middleman. Like it's like an odd stand-in. It's so hard for me to explain. I'll have to try it on a different show. What's going on in my, am I missing stuff over here? I haven't quite watched the chat. Well, anyway, guys, normally I would do an after show, but my voice is a little worn out and, I feel like that's probably just going to happen though, because I can't even handle my excitement. Everything went smoothly. Camtasia's been running this whole time recording. Yeah, and I don't think we had any hiccups. So I'm super excited, y'all. I'm re-inspired. I'm not going to lie. I had lost my inspiration a little bit because there's just nothing like prepping and putting so much energy into trying to get a show ready and then have it get messed up from technical issues. Like there's nothing more deflating and disheartening than that. I'm serious. Like it really, over time, it wears you out, man. But shout out to those of you who continue to come back, who have continued to come back in spite of all the tech issues and who have stuck it out with me really from day one, but from whatever day you came and joined us. Thank you for your support from the bottom of my heart. The new computer thanks you. And with that, I am going to play us out with our little happy celebration music. And I'll be reading all your comments once the show uploads, okay? But don't be surprised if you see another live stream pop up tomorrow. And don't be surprised if you start seeing them pop up in the middle of the night, because it's just going to be that kind of party for a while. I'm excited and very, very happy. So, with that, you guys, take care. Have a great evening. And we will talk again very soon. Bye. Now, why are y'all showing out in this chat?